Okay, so let me put this out there. Ever sit with someone and talk to them and they're just, everything in their life is going well, right? Everything's going well. They're just a good, happy person, right? These days, everyone's like busy or stressed, but this person's great, great, great. And you leave it and you're like, why am I aggravated? Let's talk about the effect of happy people on you if you're going through narcissistic abuse. So I'm hoping in this video to give you a little bit of permission to maybe cut yourself a little away from those happy people for a minute while you heal. So I had an interesting conversation with someone kind of recently who was a survivor of a pretty bad narcissistic relationship. She's an absolutely lovely human being, kind, open-hearted, resilient, and she's had really bad luck in terms of having two narcissistic parents, a narcissistic, like long-term marriage relationship, narcissistic boss, narcissistic sibling, and a few narcissistic friends. However, she does also have some really good friends, some good colleagues, and a not narcissistic sibling, and some nephews that she has really good relationships with. So it's not all doom and gloom, but she's really some very significant relationships with some really terrible people. Now, almost nobody has just one narcissistic person in their lives. Just take a minute right now. Do a census. What are the numbers like in your life? You may have sort of your most problematic central narcissistic person, and once you dig, then you see that the numbers of entitled, combative, unempathic, unkind, manipulative folks, you start to see that this is not a small number in your life. But, believe it or not, there are folks out there that are relatively narcissism-free in their lives. Now listen, I don't think anyone in the world these days, unless they're literally a hermit, could be completely free of anyone narcissistic in their lives. But I think most of us can cope with the incidental, toxic people that we run into in grocery stores and bus stops, airplanes, restaurants, that kind of thing. So let's, for our purposes, stay focused on the significant ones. The parents, siblings, partners, bosses, people who can really have or continue to make our lives miserable. Now, when we focus on just that group, there are people who are relatively, believe it or not, narcissism-free out there. I do know people myself who have really nice parents who are happily married, really nice siblings, nice kids, nice partner, really nice group of friends, nice colleagues. They're relatively insulated. And folks, that really comes down to nothing more than luck. Just plain damn luck. Like walk into a liquor store and win the lottery luck. Bet on a roulette wheel and hit the number luck. Luck. Not virtue, not wisdom, but luck. So the narcissistically abused woman I was talking about earlier shared with me a story of being with an old pal whose life turned out really nicely. She had a super nice husband who adored her. She had been very successful. He had been very successful in his professional life. They had more than enough money. They had healthy children who had gone on to their own success and happy lives. And the kids also adored her. She had worked, and when she had a job, it was supportive, and she had great colleagues. Her parents had a wonderful, loving marriage, and they had enough resources and money themselves. The fact is, this lady was really lucky. She was no nicer or kinder or anythinger than anyone else. She simply got lucky. She wasn't a bad person. She was a little clueless, a little braggy. She'd talk a lot about all the good stuff in her life because that's all that was happening in her life. She didn't really do a great job of reading the room. For example, she wasn't kind of titrating the conversation to understanding the difficulties that her narcissistically abused friend had gone through. But because of her narcissism-free life, she didn't have to learn to read rooms. She could just live her non-vigilant life, be her true self, and the people around her were validating and nice and normal. Now, people experiencing narcissistic abuse are already walking through a fog and having to, on top of that fog and confusion and the anxiety, also having to endure the narcissism shamers out there. Things like, well, maybe you're the one who's the problem, or how dare you diagnose your mother? She had a hard life too, or everybody's marriages have problems, or none of us are perfect. You know what I'm talking about. You know the drill. And if you're going through narcissistic abuse, you're already pinged with self-doubt. Did I read this right? Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe I'm too hard on them. Maybe I'm not a nice person. Maybe I'm the narcissist. And we also know that the folks who often get the most stuck in those loops of justification are the nicest folks out there. You, nice folks, are the ones who are likely to make excuses for people and forgive and justify and be flexible and open and just try to be a really nice person because you are. So when you do encounter a lucky person, and for all of you naysayers out there who want to say, oh, come on now, Dr. Ramani, we don't know everyone's lives. What might seem like the lucky life on the surface could be a mess behind closed doors. I get that, and I don't disagree. This video is genuinely focused on the folks who don't have that closed door thing. It's just all good on the way up and the way down. And in the scenario I am giving you, the person who has the good life actually will acknowledge all is well in their life. And observers inside and out of that person's life will say, yep, it really is going that well for that person. They're lucky, right? But for this lifelong narcissistically abused person, listening to this friend, it wasn't easy. The lucky lady who had the very nice, easy life was not doing anything wrong. She wasn't. She was just sharing the facts of her life, which at that moment in time, all of which were good, happy, healthy, well-resourced, easy, fortunate, all around. So the narcissistically abused woman felt guilty because she felt uncomfortable and basically thought, see, this confirms I'm a terrible person. I am having rotten thoughts about her and she isn't doing anything wrong. It isn't her fault. I went through all of this. It wasn't. It wasn't sitting well for her. And it took a woman who was already going through a difficult time. And so sadly, it left her feeling worse about herself. So what are you supposed to do? I'm going to toss out a sort of paradoxical suggestion. It's okay to feel mad and pissed off at the unfairness of it all. Now, I say this with a warning. Do not lash out at your friend whose life might be going well. That's not right. But it's okay to feel frustrated, upset, mad, sad, whatever your emotions are. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a real one. The fact is, all of us live in an envy-inducing world these days. Turn on your social media. Everyone's perfect vacation and perfect kids and beautiful home and fabulous dinner and big concert they went to and their happy family reunion. And as we all sit at home amidst unwashed laundry and a summer vacation where it rained every day and kids who might be mean to you and a family reunion that feels like a manual on emotional abuse and a burned dinner, there is that feeling many people live with every day. It's for this reason that I tell most narcissistic abuse survivors to get off of social media for a minute, or as long as they can. It's not worth it. And once you heal a bit more and feel more stronger in your sort of authentic sense of self, and you have gone through some of the process of grief and radical acceptance, if you want to go and look at your friends' fictions and posturing, you'll be in a better place to do it. But for survivors of narcissistic abuse, it's okay to be mad at the lucky. And if you are in the acute throes of healing from various forms of narcissistic abuse, it's also okay to step back from lives that you feel that you can't listen to right now. It doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a gatekeeper for yourself. I am very certain that as your healing unfolds, you will get to a place, a space, where sure, there may be a tiny pang if you listen to this person of what life could have been like if some things in your life had been different, if you had had present and validating parents or a loving, long-term committed relationship or a big, loving, extended family or a supportive workplace. Those pangs don't ever really go away, but as you heal, You may also feel the capacity to recognize that you had your own experience, your own process, journey, call it whatever you want. And while yours may not have been easy, maybe not so lucky, I do believe that many survivors of narcissistic abuse have a capacity of uniquely being able to revel in the simple good stuff around them because it feels good to exhale when it does happen. And most survivors of narcissistic abuse can often read a room better than anyone. We're always told that we should just be happy for happy people, and if we aren't, then we are the problem. Healing, though, is about keeping it real with yourself. And listen, I'm going to share true confessions here. I personally do know and have some of these really lucky folks in my life. Early in my healing from narcissistic abuse, I couldn't do it. I felt gross about feeling mad and sad and ruminating about the injustice. I didn't freeze them out, but I slowly learned that there were certain times when I felt more vulnerable and I just couldn't hear about their new this or their wonderful that. They weren't even bragging, just the simple facts of their life were hard to hear. And I gave myself permission to sort of demur and hold back until I felt a little stronger. As time has gone by, I do feel more healed, and I am able to be much more present with my happiness for them. But I have to be honest, anytime I am with them, my mind does go there. How would have this all been different, my life, if some of the things had been different? I mean, listen, it's navel-gazing and rumination at worst. It's a mental experiment, a pointless mental experience at best, or experiment at best. But I feel grateful I can do the work and teaching I do. And the radical acceptance is that this is simply my story, and it's different than theirs. It hurt me in some ways, and it gave me some prodigious gifts in others. It took a really long time to get here, folks. And yes, there are days when I don't feel strong enough to call them back right away or look at their posts. And that's okay. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I really do believe in luck. I'm the sucker who plays the lottery every week. No luck there yet, but you'll be the first to know. Thanks again.